Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Today, I actually want to talk about an interview that I did on Wednesday night, but also a program that we have talked about quite a bit here on the Aaron Torres Pod and Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel over the last couple weeks, and that's the Florida Gators, right? By now, you already know the situation at Florida. They're 1-2. They get completely embarrassed for a second time in 3 games at home last weekend against Texas A&M. Destroyed by Miami in week 1. Have the quarterback controversy in week 2. I guess it wasn't a quarterback controversy. You play Lagway, he's awesome. You have quarterback controversy going into the A&M game. Well, guess what? A&M is a debacle. Both quarterbacks look like they've lost their confidence, and it is just an embarrassment, frankly, for Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. Well, I bring it up because, as I mentioned, we had somebody on the show that would be very interesting to hear from in terms of this Florida situation. That's the Florida legend, Tim Tebow, okay? So again, if you missed it, Wednesday night, we had Tim Tebow on the show, and I asked him about a lot of different things. He was great on Arch Manning. He was great on even Tennessee, his former rival with the Gators. But I had to ask him about the Florida Gators, and I wondered, Tim Tebow seems like a great guy. I don't know him well, but would he be transparent, and would he really speak about the true state of the Florida Gators? Yeah. Tim Tebow is not happy with the state of Florida football. Producer Matt, play Tim Tebow from the Aaron Torres Pod.
I would say the competitive edge. Before it used to be the 4 to 6 seconds of relentless effort and focus. Where was that 4 to 6 seconds of relentless effort and focus, right? You can lose a game and still make your fan base proud. By the effort, the tenacity, right? Sometimes another team's just better, and it's easier for, I believe, fan bases to handle that. It's hard when you kind of get pushed around, especially by Miami.
Sure.
So I think that really matters. Like offense and defensive line, like that competitiveness. Like I think the fan base wants to see some fire playing with that. And if you lose that way, you lose that way. But hey, go out swinging.
Well, hello. Credit where it's due. Tim Tebow not holding back here on the Aaron Torres Pod about the state of Florida football. And when I hear that, 2 things come to mind. Okay, the first thing that comes to mind, like I said, I don't know Tim personally. He's been on the show a few times. He's always been very gracious to me, okay? But the one thing that I feel pretty confident saying is, seems like a pretty easygoing guy. Listen, he ain't Paul Feinbaum. He ain't even, listen, sometimes I'm not afraid to just criticize people that I feel like need to be criticized, okay? And so that is not the Tebow brand. The Tebow brand is patience, is, sincerity, is being kind. And so when Tim Tebow is as open and as transparent as that, things are bad at Florida. But let me even take it a step further, because what Tebow said in that clip, and if you missed it, you can go back and listen on YouTube. You can obviously, if you're listening on pod, it's a completely different deal. But I bring it up because in that clip, the one thing that Tebow said is exactly what we have been saying on the show. It's not just that Florida is losing. It's the manner in which they are losing. And let me say this. I think there are times where fans can be overreactionary, maybe not fair to their team, their coach, their whatever. I think Florida fans have been patient. I think they've tried to believe in Billy Napier. I think they're done with Billy Napier. And I think it's completely justified. Because if you listen to the Tim Tebow comments, the bottom line is he said exactly what we've been saying on this show, essentially since, halftime of the Miami game, okay? Listen, it's one thing to lose a football game or a basketball game or a baseball game or a softball game or a tennis match or whatever. There are times where you play your best and your best isn't good enough. It's one of the great life lessons, right? There's times where the other team is just better. Give you an example. Not this coming Saturday, the next Saturday. Georgia's playing in Alabama. One team has to lose that game. It doesn't mean that the team that loses is terrible. It doesn't even mean that they're poverty, that their coach stinks. Just sometimes you get two good teams on a field, on a court, on a whatever, on the ice, and the better team has to win, and one team does win. That has not been the case with Florida football this year, and I think that's where the frustration comes in. We talked about it after the Miami game. Absolutely getting punked by the Miami Hurricanes at the line of scrimmage. They had, what was it, like 191 yards of offense, 61-71 came on one run from Montrell Johnson. And what was sad about that game is a couple things. You're at home. It's a season opener, so you have 8 months to prepare for that game because they didn't go to a bowl game last year. But the other thing was Miami isn't just better than you at every single position on the field. Miami also has a third-year head coach, just like you do. So if you're Billy Napier and the argument is I need more time, the portal this, recruiting that, well, Mario Cristobal's been there the exact same amount of time. So what is your excuse? There is none. And it was the same with A&M. Listen, A&M is not a finished product. Maybe Mike Elko's the guy, maybe that he isn't. But for him in his third game to come into the swamp and physically kick the crap out of you, that speaks to everything that you need to know about the state of Florida football as of right now. I think the scary thing, I just don't see this getting better. As a matter of fact, this isn't something that Tebow said, but I'll say it because I've been thinking about it over the last couple days. I think you can argue the Florida football team is getting worse as time goes on under Billy Napier. Like, that's the scary part. If you're just not there, if Miami's better, if A&M's better, whatever, they're getting worse. Think about year one, okay? I understand that they had Anthony Richardson in year one, but in year one, remember, they not only had Anthony Richardson, but they were physical along the lines. Remember, they beat Utah at home in the first game of the Napier era. They competed. They easily could have beaten Florida State final game of the season. Florida State was a 10-win team that year. Beat South Carolina, destroyed South Carolina, come to think of it, beat Missouri. Now look at them over the last year and a half. They're clearly getting worse. By the way, they were better at the beginning of last year than they were by the end of the year. Beat Tennessee at home. By the end of the year, they're losing to Arkansas in a season where Arkansas did not have another SEC win. And then this year, they're absolutely getting destroyed. It's bad. It's ugly. And I think that's the part where if you are a Gators fan, that's where the frustration has to come in. It's not just that you're bad. It's that you are getting the crap kicked out of you. You are getting beat up, and you continue to only get worse under Billy Napier. And so when I look at this situation, listen, it's toxic. We've talked about it. Listen, I think if Florida loses on Saturday, it's over. I think it's over anyway. Goes without saying, right? But they lose to Mississippi State, I think there's a 100% chance that he's getting fired on Sunday. I don't think there's really urgency otherwise. They need to find a school president. They need to find an AD. And I think if he were to beat Mississippi State, then you probably get the bye week, gives the school a few weeks to figure out the president situation, the AD situation. But I just bring it up because you look at the state of Florida, it's bad, it's embarrassing. And as we've discussed, this is the easy part of the schedule. You still have at Tennessee. That's not going to be competitive. You still have at Texas. That's not going to be competitive. Georgia on a neutral. That's not going to be competitive. Kentucky has beaten you 3 straight times that you have faced the Wildcats. They played tough against Georgia the other day. And oh, by the way, on top of that, you still have LSU as well. And certainly Ole Miss right now is bad as well. If you missed it, Tim Tebow, it's not just that we're losing. It's that we're physically getting beat up. We're losing the competitive edge. That was Tim Tebow here on the Aaron Torres pod. But boy, oh boy, Tebow doesn't hold back. Good for him. I appreciate the transparency, and I know you guys do too.